That's better with a bit of light. Hey guys, welcome everybody. This is now, it's been a week since I put up a video, hasn't it? This is now day 15 or 16 of the shutdown due to the coronavirus that we've been dealing with. I'm now starting to wonder if I should be finding a black market barber soon because my hair's starting to get a little long and a little less manageable. Oh, excuse me. I'll be back to that awful blooming thatch of hair that someone like Neil Gaiman has to deal with again. It's this terrible Irish hair. Plenty been going on. I'm thankfully, as you're aware, I've been able to do my regular work from home, and that's something of a bonus and a blessing. I got made permanent. They had a special meeting with HR and my manager to confirm that I actually am now an official long-term, no longer under probation employee, which thankfully means a small increase in my salary as well, which is definitely something to celebrate, even though it was a bit of a muted celebration. That me and my wife had some beer to drink last night to celebrate, as today's a day off, and I'm back at work tomorrow. Well, I'm here. This is my work. But literally, I'm quite fortunate that my trip to work now doesn't involve a 30-minute bike ride. It involves a 30-second get out of bed and sit down by the computer. So it's not much of, it's quite an interesting change for me, but I don't mind. Also, good news is I'm not smoking anymore because I'm not going outside and I refuse to smoke in front of my children. I've been almost the entire time vaping rather than smoking, which is a definite bonus and improvement. I'm feeling much healthier and my clothes smell way less. So that's really what I wanted to lead into here and talk about, because obviously, as you know, the art of the storyteller continues, though I'm not, as you know, as aggressively or actively, excuse me, a bit of a dry mouth. I'm not as aggressively or as actively advertising my books at the moment. In fact, I haven't been writing much because I've been doing quite a few hours of work and also sharing the load on the time off of making sure the kids are occupied, because obviously they can't go outside, they can't go to the park, and when one of us goes shopping, they can't come with us. So it's obviously quite a challenging time for us all, and I know it's a much more challenging time for some. One thing, and I'll share some of this for you guys so you can see it. It'll start actually fairly soon. You may well be able to hear it soon. At precisely 8 o'clock in the evening here, Central European time, everyone goes onto their balconies and cheers in celebration to motivate and celebrate our medical workers who are going on shift at that exact time. And that's something those people, bless them all, are having a much harder time over me. Yes, they continue to work, but under circumstances, God alone knows how they manage it. I certainly don't. I haven't got a clue what it must be like out there, because I hear stories, I see things. Here in Spain, it's pretty darn terrible. We haven't actually reached the peak of the curve just yet. I think last time I checked, we've lost close to 8,000 people. Maybe more, maybe 9. I honestly don't remember. I need to check, and I should have done my research before coming on here today. I apologize. And have still a great number of people infected, and that's what these people have to deal with on top of the regular things of accidents, regular sicknesses, everything. And I don't know how they do it with and even though, oh, there we go, you might be able to hear that. I don't know if you can hear that applause. And my wife's just gone out with the kids to join in. So we join in most nights because, good God, these people deserve any little piece of encouragement they can get, because it must be the hardest thing in the world to get up and know what you're going into. Gosh, I've had jobs like that where I really didn't want to go in, but I needed to go. I don't think it's anything in comparison to what those people are doing. They don't know what they're going into. They don't know how bad it's going to be, or they probably do. And there was me thinking getting up and going to a call center or going to a security guard job where I was going to be bored all night was an effort. Good God, I'm sure there's a lot of them people, a lot of those doctors, a lot of those nurses, those cleaners, those medical orderlies, those who work in any capacity in our overloaded hospitals here. I'm sure they would give anything to switch to a quiet and relaxed job like that. I know I wouldn't fancy doing it. I used to be of the nature of the way manner of thinking that I always give my dad's ex-Navy. My dad was in the British Navy for 20 odd years, and he did see combat, even though the combat he took part in never officially happened. It was more of the British Navy were there as a deterrent. They didn't fire live rounds. At least they admitted that years later, but officially they weren't there. They were, and I always was of the impression that a soldier's or any combat personnel's job would be one I would struggle to achieve, and had a lot of respect for the ones that could do it. Now it's the medical stuff. Wherever you are in the world, whatever role you fulfill in any hospital or medical center in the world, be you in America, be you in Hawaii, be you in China, be you in Italy, be you in Iran, be you in Spain, be you in England, I personally salute you, respect you, and thank you for doing the job that I know I would struggle to do. I freely admit I don't think I have the stamina or the strength to do the job that you're doing, so I've got utmost respect for you who can do it and who every day will get up and keep going, even when you think you've reached the limit of your stamina. I couldn't do it, I don't think, though of course if we'd asked you 3 months ago whether you could do it, you'd have probably said no. But you're doing it now. I respect you. I respect the officers of our law enforcement. I respect the people who clean our streets. I respect the people who are ensuring we're able to buy food and essentials. Thank you all, every single one of you, because I go a couple of times a week. Either myself or my wife will go to the supermarket to buy the essentials we need, the food, the supplies. And I know you're frightened. You've got your masks on, you've got some of you are wearing the visors, the gloves, the full protection. You are there and you don't know whether the next customer to walk through your door has the virus and doesn't know it and could give it to you and your entire family, but you show up and you make sure we can buy our food and that we can survive. And what do I have to do? I have to, in my job, sit here and answer emails or live chats from people who are experiencing problems, which are not life-threatening in nature. Okay, they're important to them. I've been in customer service long enough to know not to judge people for what they deem important at the time. But it's nothing by comparison. I venture out and I've considered, I'll have to show you guys one time. I actually considered it. I do spend a bit of time looking on Wish, and I was going to buy an actual proper NATO gas mask to wear out on the streets. I venture out in my NATO issue gas mask and protective gear. No, I don't. Honestly, I don't. I'm a writer. Remember, I exaggerate things that are real. I venture out a couple of times a week in order to obtain food and supplies for the family. I don't venture out every single day and stay out all day to ensure my family have food to eat by making sure everyone else does. So respect for you guys too. I honestly don't know how you do it, but you do. And for that, I thank you. Now, of course, many who visit my social media streams online are fully aware of my opinion of some politicians and the job that they're doing. I'm not going to go into that here, but as you know, as many of you know, and as many of you may argue against me in regards to it, the job they're doing is not adequate. The political arguing and complaining and fighting across the aisles, as it were, no, it's not what we need right now. I am not going to reveal my political allegiance, so any of you who know me have got a good idea of what direction I lean. But at the same time, I don't consider myself left. I don't consider myself right. I don't consider myself in the middle. I consider myself on the side of what is right. And I've discussed this with many people. Many people know the Chronicles of Enoch has been accused of being a predominantly Judeo-Christian work because of the material upon which it is based. I consider myself, what would you call me? I am an agnostic. I believe myself to be somewhat at the core of a Christian belief, but I don't follow the dictates or the doctrines or the petty little rules so many Christian churches appear to abide by. I believe that there is up there some creator, that the universe is not just pure accident in its sudden appearance out of nothing, but I don't follow any strict laws or decide who I associate with and who I do not. I personally believe that anybody, be they atheists, be they queer, be they transsexual, be they of any of the LGBTIA plus community, be they Muslims, be they Jews, be they Buddhists, be they Hindus, be they Taoists, be they anything, be they from any part of the world, black, white, blue, green, or orange, are worthy of my respect, of my help if I can provide it, and my lack of judgment upon whatever decisions they make in their life. It is not for me to decide. If there is a judging God sitting at the end of all things, then it's up to them to make decisions, not me. I am not going to exclude or discriminate against anybody because of the book I have in my house and the book that I read that dictates how I should run my life. Not at all. And those that do, I'm sorry, do not follow, excuse me, as I clearly set out in the Chronicles of Enoch, they do not follow the teachings of a former carpenter from the proximity of Galilee. They follow a man-made invention which is trying to justify their prejudices. That's it. Prejudice. Their prejudices. One of those words I struggle with. It used to be millennium and phenomenon, but I got around those. The prejudices that they have, they justify those using supposedly the example of a man who revealed himself to be highly unprejudiced. But still, that's a topic for another day. Many of you know the background which inspired me to write the Chronicles of Enoch and won't be surprised by this. Other people might. And some of the controversy I have faced and my absence from Facebook since the beginning of March or the end of February will explain it. Will be explained well then, that such opinions, it would appear, are not welcome on Facebook mixed with some others. Never mind, hasn't let it stop me. But I wanted to touch on that, and there's other things I wanted to touch on. I'll give you a bit of a background. As I've said, I'm still locked down here in Spain. We're locked down until, well, for another 2 weeks, give or take. Can't go to work. Going to work right here. This screen that I'm currently looking at myself on, and is recording my thoughts and my speech, is my workplace. I've got a lovely little setup here. I've got my kids here with me. You can probably hear them in the background, exercising their freedom and expressing their joyous outlook on life. Well, they're almost 3.5 years old. Everything is they're taking it in their stride. Mummy and daddy are around all of the time. That's good for them. They don't understand the complexities. They just know they're just upset they can't come out when I go to the shop, or they can't go to the park. It's kind of a pull because I'd love to take one of them, but the worst thing I could do right now is expose them out there. Obviously I go out because one of us must, but I'm not going to directly expose the girls to any of that, even if I could. Here in Spain at the moment, it's one person at a time in the shops. So me and my wife can't go together, and especially we can't take the girls with us. My parents are fine, thank God. My sister and her family are fine. I'm staying in touch with my family as best as I can, and I'm thankful for this modern infrastructure that we have in the form of communication, that not only can I work well from home and stay in touch with my colleagues, but I can stay in touch with my family just as easily. I can have my bi-weekly conversation with my parents to make sure they're okay, and they can see the girls and know the girls are happy. I can stay in touch with my sister by WhatsApp, with my aunties and my uncles, and all of my family. It's good. I'm glad of that. And of course, my wife can stay in touch with the other side of the family over there in the Dominican Republic, who are also having a hard time of it. So thankfully, we have this infrastructure in place that we can maintain the communication without too much problem, and that's good to have, and I'm grateful for it. And, I'm grateful as well for out there all these people I'm becoming friendly with and sharing opinions and moments with on social media. And it's to you I want to reach out as well, because I'm an observer. Obviously, I'm a writer. My stock in trade is observation. Any of you will agree with me on that. Graham, Laurie, everybody, Neil, you know what is our true stock in trade, our true greatest skill as writers is observation. We observe things that most other people miss, and we come up with explanations and stories behind those observations. Excuse me, I get uncomfortable sitting down too long, and I've got a slight troubled stomach from a lack of exercise, so excuse me. I'll go and take an antacid later. We know that this. Oh, there's one of my daughters saying hello. I'm sure you can hear her. She is loving it, as we say where I come from. She's very happy indeed, and her sister as well. We're loving it too, because thankfully I'm not taking calls as part of my working from home, because they'd be wondering who the heck is that screeching like a banshee behind you. Oh, that's one of my daughters showing her joy at daddy being home, because they're used to daddy being out for 12 hours a day. Anyway, going back, so observation is the one key thing that we as writers have as our most valuable resource and skill. We observe and we create narratives and stories and explanations around the observations we make. One of my favorite things that I always used to do, and still do, in fact, though obviously at these times under social distancing. Oh no, touch my face. Please, everyone get away from the screen. It's at least 6 feet away from your screen now because I just touched my face. So, a little bit of humor is required. I used to sit in public places, be it either in a square on the street, in a library, in a bar, in a train, bus, or in a train or bus station, just generally walking around, and I would observe people and do what I call people watching and come up with little stories about what these people were doing. You know, you'd see an old fella shuffling along with his bags and come up with a little story about how he got there. Or bless them, especially during these times, see some homeless people. And you'd hear there was one particular homeless person I remember in Gibraltar. I don't know what's happened to her. I know Elizabeth, highly educated, well spoken woman, very intelligent, or at least she was until I believe the drink got to her. And, you know, come up with her story about how she came from such a wealthy and educated background to begging for change on the street and drinking in doorways. Always writing stories, telling the stories of the people who cannot themselves tell their story. You know, one of my favorite series that Neil Gaiman wrote is Neverwhere, one of his less famous ones. He was telling the story of the homeless community in London. He saw and wanted to give them a voice, and good God, he did that well. You see, that's what we do. We tell people stories, we invent stories, or we tell the stories of the people whose stories they themselves cannot tell, of the voiceless, of the forgotten, of the silent, of what people would call the damned, the untouchables. And I myself am doing that. We're delving into history, we're delving into the ancient past, we're delving into the origins of many religions, are telling the story of things history has chosen to forget, or things that are not considered fashionable by history and society and culture. And this has given me a few enemies. And some of those enemies took direct action against me. And that's okay. I'm not complaining, it's not going to stop me. It actually spurred me in new directions and pushed me a little bit harder. And that's what I'm saying to you the same. There are those of you out there at this moment in time. Be you writers, be you readers, be you viewers of visual media, of films and plays and so forth, be you listeners to audiobooks. You're having a struggle of a time. Writers are not, shall we say, the most extroverted, socially adept, and popular in the terms of the use of the word popular in the aspect of films, of people. Yet here we are, thriving somewhat in this environment. Now, I'm quite, I suppose, I became a more of an extroverted person through necessity, through my work, through my regular pays the bills and keeps a roof over my head. I used to be, look at me, at the age of 16, some 40 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm not that old, I could not even look at a person of the female persuasion of my age group in the eye and actually speak to them. Yeah, I know. I struggled to converse with people I thought were better than me. I could not go out there and put myself forward. Yet, through sheer willpower, necessity, and need, here I am having a conversation with what could be thousands of people. Now, under different circumstances, I personally would have no problem standing on a stage and doing this, as it were, live. in front of a crowd of paying people, something I doubt is going to happen anytime soon, whether the virus goes away or not. I would do it though. I've done it. I have. Let's just tell you this. This comes up as an interview answer. I offer, an answer to a common interview question. What was a defining and moving moment for me in dealing with what I suppose today is called social anxiety, or what I used to call shyness? Yes, is so I'm going a little weird under this whole thing of being kept indoors. Please excuse me. Yeah, I just noticed me doing that and keep putting my hand there is a little weird. And doing this, I look like a puppet. But I'm comfortable like this, so please bear with me. So, what I was talking about, we often have these questions. Explain to us a time when you were under particularly challenging circumstances, had to take the initiative, and how it turned out for you in a professional manner. In the year 1996, 1997, I was exploring the possibilities of being a teacher, and I took a job at an English academy a short distance away from the city of Valencia in Spain, where I was currently doing my gap year. And because I wasn't actually a qualified teacher, and the owner of the school, very fine gentleman I believe he was of Persian or Iranian American descent. Cyrus Dadpovar was his name. Excellent. He, obviously Cyrus being the Persian background, he ran the school, and because I didn't have my TEFL, my formal qualification, he kept me as the office boy and also doing odd lessons here and there. Now, this one day Cyrus was out on an errand, and the officially qualified English teacher, a British guy whose name I unfortunately don't remember, but I can visualize him, ran out of the class in a complete mess while I was doing some work on doing some website work, some design work, little bits here and there. He came out and explained to me his dilemma. He'd run into a complete blank, a panic, and was struggling to teach his group of local businessmen or local engineers, businessmen who were learning English, of whom there were about 25 to 30 in the class. He came out and just said he couldn't do it. That defining moment was what I am sure many of you will recognize as what I would call if I call it a rimmer moment. Those of us who've read Rob Grant's Backwards will know what I'm talking about. Excellent piece of work, by the way. Keep going, Rob. We need some more work from you, by the way. I'd love to see a new book of yours. Since Incompetence, I've been thirsting for more of your writing. Maybe it'll come one day. Anyway, he said he couldn't do it. And I came to that decision that here I am supporting this English school, working for a man who's been decently kind to me in helping me achieve some sort of experience in the field I decided I wanted to do some work in. Here were his major clients, the ones who brought most money into his language school, his bread and butter, as it were. If they were dissatisfied and decided to go elsewhere and not renew the contract, it would affect his business, and I liked them. So I made a decision. I asked my colleague, "What were you teaching?" And he said, I was struggling to teach them. I think he was talking about perfect tenses, about or everything like that, and he was struggling to explain it to them because he spoke no Spanish and was running, as was currently the trend at the time, one which I was always firmly against personally. I will get to that. He was teaching them exclusively in English and was struggling to find ways to explain it to them. I said, okay, sit down, have a drink, I've got this. And I walked into that room with no preparation, with 25 to 30 expectant faces of men, all of whom were at least 20 years my senior at the time. Some were the youngest were my age, the age I am now. And I finished that class. I picked up and I did one thing that my colleague did not do. I explained it to them in Spanish because I, back then inclusive, spoke fluent Spanish. I still do. And I had that innovative idea when I started teaching Spanish of why not teach in both languages, as in explain the theory in Spanish to them so that they can understand it, but insist that they express themselves to me only in English unless they have a question they don't know how to phrase in English. Now it's quite a commonplace system. Everyone does it. I wish I'd have come up with a way of actually putting some system around that and copywriting it back then. But hey, you live and learn. I could have been a rich ESL guru by now. Imagine. No, not at all. I didn't do it. And there we are. But this is my message to you out there, every single one of you. Those of you who are struggling in these times, whose anxiety is high, who are stressed, who are worried, who are finding themselves have to express and interact in different ways than they did, who are worried about their family, about their friends, about what the government in their country is not doing but should be doing. You've got this. You have got this. You are still breathing. You are still alive. And I know it is hard. I know it is a challenge. I know these are unprecedented circumstances under which we find ourselves. I know you don't have solutions. I know tomorrow is, to paraphrase Shakespeare, the great undiscovered country, about which Patrick Stewart has often been talking and did mention, as did Shatner. It is the undiscovered country. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. All we know is that every single day more people are falling sick, more people are dying. What we used to consider our normal daily routine is gone. I've switched to this fella and I had to walk 3 miles to get enough juice for this to last me until the order I placed from a supplier in Arizona arrives. Getting food, it used to be we used to do one big weekly shop between us, take the girls with us, use a pushchair to carry the heavy stuff. Now it is these fellas, these guns right here, have to manage the 1.5-mile walk from what we call Mercadona, the local shop, carrying all the heavy stuff. And I tell you something, it's not fun. It takes what used to take us 15 minutes with the pushchair, if that, takes me over half an hour now because I have to stop for regular breaks to make sure my arms don't fall off and I don't lose a few fingers on the way. But we're doing it. And what I am saying to you is that you can do it. You are doing it. You're surviving. You're thriving to a degree. And you're facing this challenge like a champion. Every single one of you. You may not be like me sitting here trying to come up with inspiring words to tell people. But I'm sure there's one person out there who is thankful for what you do, at least one. Like I mentioned in the last video, there's that one person to whom what you do is more valuable than you could possibly imagine. And for them, you must keep doing it. Not just for you. Obviously, for you, it's vital. For them, it may be the difference between life or death. Something that you say or that you do may mean to them more than the words of any other person in this world. Always remember that. That's what keeps us going. That's what makes us keep getting up in the morning. It's what keeps the doctors, the nurses, the hospital staff getting up in the morning knowing that they are needed and knowing if they don't go, someone could die. It may not be quite the same degree of life or death for us, it probably isn't, but it might be. I personally, and I'll tell you this story on the next video, probably on Sunday, because I'm working for the rest of this week. There actually was a case I had like that, and this person told me this many months later, and I was humbled. There may be that person out there for you and you just don't know it yet. But continue, keep at it. All this will pass. Normality will return. The dawn will break. The struggles will go by, and I guarantee you, every single one of you are going to be stronger because of it. You may not realize it yourself. You may not realize it until you return to what your normal job was, if you can, which I hope you can. Until someone says to you, you're different. You're not like you used to be. You can look me in the eye and smile. What happened? And it was odd. This came to me. I'll give you a little bit of idea of the background. As many of you know, I was in the Dominican Republic for several years with my wife and my children and her family. I was working over there. I was struggling. And we decided it's better to struggle over here, and thank God we did. But when I was I was up staying with my parents. Initially, when I came back by myself to find this flat, this job, so that my wife and 2 daughters could come over to have somewhere to stay while we tried to establish things. Unfortunately, the coronavirus got in the way of our plans. Unfortunately, we were in the process of sorting the paperwork out for for our boys. Obviously they're not children anymore that my wife had before we met. They're my boys as well, always will be. But we were in the process of getting their paperwork sorted out to bring them over here. Unfortunately, all the appointments we had for the time we were going to do it were obviously cancelled when all the government offices closed. But that's part of it. I was up staying with my parents before I came down here and found work in a more direct fashion, staying with my cousin in Gibraltar. God bless you, John. You saved my life, mate. It was a struggle to be getting nowhere, to be doing interviews, to be travelling all the way from where my parents live to Gibraltar and back, and having numerous interviews and no success. And I was out smoking on the back terrace in my parents' house in a place called Valdepeñas de Jaén, which is up in the mountains. Like I said, it's about 3 hours away from here by road, or maybe 4. And my mum said, actually, I know you're struggling, I know you're having a hard time, but you're a lot stronger than I last remember you being. And that touched my heart. And it just goes to show we are a work in progress always. What you are now, what you are dealing with now, what you're going through is not the sum of you. Your challenges, your difficulties, your depression, your anxiety are not you. They're a part of your personality, a part of what you're dealing with right now, but they are not you. Your circumstances are not you. What you become at the end of it is you. And if you're writing, if your art, if any of your presence online or otherwise, is positively, dry throat ruining my flow. It's terrible. If anything you do is giving a positive effect on somebody else's life, be proud of that and realize you're not worthless. You're not a thing. You are not wasting your time at all. And those people who've put you down, those people who've insulted you, who've called you terrible, horrible names and done terrible, horrible things to you or people you love, they're the failures. Because I can guarantee you now, you keep at this, you keep pushing, you keep chasing your dream, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I guarantee you, you'll come back and those people, that person, will be in the same place you left them. They will be the same failure. They will be the same low self-esteem, self-hating, self-consuming, narcissistic, sociopath, whatever it was that they were, when they did what they did to you. And yes, stopping them from doing it to other people is a worthy goal. But how are you going to do that? By showing other people that you came from the place they are in now, and look at you now. It's that simple, really. Because I can guarantee you that you are not in the same place you were 1 year ago. I can guarantee you, you have grown, you have learned, and you have become stronger. And all I ask of you as I close this up, and I tell you this is the strongest art a storyteller can have, is making sure your story develops, of continuing, of not giving in, of not letting them win. It's all in here and it's all in here. All of it. It's in attitude, it's in heart, it's in passion. And I know each and every one of you watching this video today has both of those in ample quality. All you may lack, those of you who are watching this now, is the belief. And I'll tell you right now, I believe in you. I believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. And you need to know that though me saying those words that I believe in you touch you in a way you hadn't realized possible, you saying them to yourself is much more powerful. And that's what I want you to do. Everyone tells you, look in the mirror and say it, I believe in you. And though you see me looking at you, I see me looking at myself. So just imagine yourself telling you that. Imagine 5 years from now, you going to that book signing, you going to that premiere, you shaking hands with that author you so admire and them saying, I love that book, it's brilliant. My children read it, I've read it. Imagine meeting your favorite movie or television stars and them saying, I want to be this character. I can make this character come to life. Imagine an author like yourself just beginning their journey, asking you for advice and asking you, how did you come from this and become that? And you're saying, sit down, let's have a chat. I believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. Remember that, and I'll see you again soon. And thank you again. This has been Alan J. Fisher with the Art of the Storyteller. Coronavirus lockdown day 15 in Spain. Have a lovely day.